Coming up next, News Channel 13 Live at 11, a local man just back from Guantanamo Bay talks about Haitian refugees and the plans to turn back their boats. We'll also attend services remembering those who went to war and never returned, and we'll learn where trendy travelers are headed this summer. All straight ahead. News Channel 13 Live at 11.
This is News Channel 13, WNYT, Albany. And now, live for the Capital Region, Ed Dague, Chris Kapostashi, Bob McNamara with sports, and meteorologist Bob Kovachick. This is News Channel 13, live at 11.
Good evening. Chris has the night off, a night when the focus is on President Bush and his policy regarding Haitian refugees, a policy which has now brought him under heavy political fire. For months, Haitians have been fleeing their economically crippled island for a better life in America. Most were picked up at sea, taken to the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. But with that base now overflowing, the president has reversed his policy and the fleeing refugees are being returned to Haiti, a decision which some in the world community view as cruel and unfair. No one can truly understand the conditions these Haitians must endure unless they have seen it firsthand. And John Gray spoke to a local man who has seen it firsthand. John now joins us live with more.
Well, Ed, Tim Morrell, like a lot of Army reservists and others in the service, found themselves fighting in the Persian Gulf War not that long ago. He thought he'd seen just about everything over there until he stepped off that boat in Cuba earlier this year.
This is Tim Morrell's family here in the States. And these are some of the Haitians he came to know as family during his 3-month tour in Guantanamo Bay.
I think the whole premise of us being there is wrong.
As a chaplain's assistant in the Army Reserves, Morrell saw the pain and suffering of these people up close. He says the U.S. policy may be to help the refugees, but the way it is carried out is sometimes callous. He remembers one day in particular.
On Good Friday, they put up a manifest like they were sending people to the United States. This is what they did 3 days a week. People were excited about thinking they were going to the United States. Called them out, put them in a penned-in area, and started calling them in and telling them they were HIV positive.
He says the refugees were devastated. As for the president's decision to turn the Haitians back now, Morrell, seeing the overcrowding in Cuba, he supports it. But he is critical of George Bush and Congress for their lack of support for the nation of Haiti as a whole.
Nobody cares what happens in Haiti, from President Bush on down. If we put the money into Haiti that we're putting into Guantanamo Bay, into their economy would change overnight.
But of course, as you know, Ed, that's a catch-22 for the president, because since the coup there last year, the president and other nations have been forcing economic sanctions against Haiti, hoping to bring back a democratic party. Right now, he's in a situation where he wants to have economic sanctions to make things tough on them, but by making it tough, the Haitians are leaving, and there may be no easy answers here.
So what would our local guy do with the refugees if he were president tonight?
If he were president tonight, he said he would try to deal more with what's going on in Haiti than what is happening down in Cuba, trying to help get that economy in Haiti back on its feet, because he pointed out that he met one young man who was turned away and sent back to Haiti, and a couple of days later he was back again. He says regardless of any orders President Bush gives, they are going to be climbing in boats and trying to get out of there, because there is simply nothing for them there, and if we don't deal with the problem at the root source, it is not going to go away.
Well, as you point out, though, that is politically complicated.
Yes.
Thank you. John Gray reporting live. Memorial Day, of course, traditionally a time for Americans to remember their war dead, but tonight in Albany, local AIDS activists marched to the state capitol to remember those who have died of AIDS and those who have the AIDS virus. They're calling on the state to devote more money to the treatment and possible cure of the deadly disease. AIDS activists with the group ACT UP held a similar demonstration in Kennebunkport, Maine, where President Bush was vacationing. Unseasonably cold temperatures this Memorial Day did not keep people from paying tribute to America's fallen war heroes. All across the capital region, streets were closed as veterans marched in tribute to those men and women who never made it back home. But in New York City, where Desert Storm veterans were welcomed home last year, the annual Memorial Day parade was canceled for the first time since 1919. Private Frank Russell Whittlesley was finally buried in Pittsfield today with full military honors. Whittlesley died in September of 1942 at what the Marines called Bloody Ridge on Guadalcanal Island. His fellow Marines buried him there, but the location of the grave was unknown for nearly 50 years. Whittlesley's dog tag and some bones were found by a farmer 3 years ago, and later an anthropological team went to Guadalcanal and recovered almost a complete skeleton. Memorial Day used to be especially rough on one group of veterans, the soldiers who returned home from Vietnam, but much of that has now changed, thanks in part to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. Sandy Gilmore spent this Memorial Day at the wall.
Not far from the Lincoln Memorial, it is known simply as the Wall. 58,187 names of the dead and missing. The families, the veterans' friends come looking for the names.
All his hopes and dreams at the ripe young age of 21.
For a group of veterans from Virginia, it's a place to pray. Monty Seidler says they come here often.
On Memorial Day, it's a little bit more heavier for us, basically, because we're remembering those that didn't come home.
For Marcia Turner, the wall gives to the death of her brother Tommy.
It remains, in addition to the tragedy of Vietnam, a tragedy for my family.
In this 10th anniversary year of the Memorial Wall, the official theme is remembrance and reflection. It is about a war that divided the country and the attempts to heal the wounds.
I brought my oldest daughter here 2 years ago, and we could feel the peace and the love coming from it. And my husband has felt it since we've gotten here.
Part of the healing is political, too. Former Senator and presidential candidate George McGovern, fervently anti-war, said the lesson is never to go to war without full support of the American people and Congress. The wall moves him now, too.
I'm frank to confess that I can't walk along these walls even yet and see these names without weeping.
And to help you think of me.
The healing continues. Country Joe McDonald, anti-war, was invited to the wall on Memorial Day as well.
Oh, think of me and carry on.
In Washington, Sandy Gilmore for News Channel 13.
Now let's get the latest on what local police and fire departments are working on at this moment. Here is John Swantek.
And we have a report on a late-breaking story that broke just before we went on the air. Apparently, there has been a plane crash at the Fulton County Airport in Johnstown. According to sheriff's deputies there, it was a small craft with only 4 people on it, and from what they can gather, came up short of the runway. It doesn't appear to be too serious. There were just 4 people on it, one of which we know was certainly injured with some broken bones. The details, besides that, not available at the moment. We will check back and follow up on this later in the broadcast. 11:07 right now, and that's it from the Operations Center.
Okay, thanks, John. Let's check in with Bob, where I guess the big question tonight is, will it freeze?
No frost tonight. Cloud cover, south wind. We're safe.
Good.
The plants and vegetables are in good shape. It's still cool. Let's check it out, Ed. For tomorrow, Tuesday, sunrise, 5:23. 7 to 8 o'clock, cloudy skies. Because of the clouds, there will not be a frost tonight. Temperatures reaching the mid to upper 50s. That's it tomorrow. Rain by late afternoon. Sunset tomorrow at 8:20. Full forecast for the rest of the week. Certainly nothing like last week. Coming up a bit later on, Ed.
Thanks, Bob. Still to come, News Channel 13 live at 11. A well-known rap group comes under fire in Chicago. An earthquake rocks Cuba, and travel experts tell us what's hot and what's not this summer.
Great design and luxury, accessible to everybody.
News Channel 13 is sponsored in part by your local Jeep and Eagle dealers.
We began tonight by highlighting for you the serious side of this Memorial Day. The other side, the other Memorial Day tradition celebrating the start of the summer season, it was rather chilled out by the cold temperatures. Sweaters and wool blankets were in evidence at picnics and barbecues today. Officials tell us attendance at state parks is way below previous years. We did find a group of swimmers braving the icy cold waters of Grafton Lake, but most of those we talked to today preferred Saturday's heat wave to today's cold. It could be worse, though. In Minnesota, snowflakes made this a Memorial Day to remember. If surveys and bookings can be believed, the American travel industry is headed for a strong comeback this summer. But coming off a recession, most vacationers will be looking for bargains. Brian Jenkins has tonight's Money Matters report.
With jobs so scarce and raises so skimpy these days, there aren't many Americans who can afford to run off on long, expensive vacations.
We're going to Connecticut.
Yeah?
Just going to Mom's house.
There you go.
You know,
play a little golf, go to the beach. And when vacationers aren't bunking with family or friends, they often want to know up front the total cost of their trips. That's why 4-day cruises have become so popular and why so many people are snapping up package deals to places like Disney World.
I think it is the new status to be a little bit careful and not to just throw money around carelessly.
Isla Stanger is editor-in-chief of Travel and Leisure magazine. The upcoming issue salutes entrepreneurs who've done for travel what the Gap has done for clothes, offer affordable quality. It's a trend the magazine calls Get Real Travel. You don't have to pay sky-high prices at the Paramount in New York City, for example, but Stanger says you do step inside a classic hotel redone to resemble an ocean liner, with staterooms starting at only $100 a night.
You don't give up anything. You have a small room, but you get a lot of style in the lobby and a sense of theater that goes with it. So it's a great experience.
The Paramount's amenities are certainly a step up from the typical tourist hotel, but its room rates are still within reach of travelers on a budget. The staff calls it cheap chic, and it's a concept that seems to be catching on in the travel business from sea to shining sea. Brian Jenkins, CNN, New York.
In World Matters tonight, the Russian government of Boris Yeltsin is offering new evidence on the Soviets' involvement in international terrorism. Secret documents released in Moscow show the KGB armed Palestinian guerrillas for attacks on American and Israeli targets. Italy has elected 73-year-old Christian Democrat Oscar Luigi Scalfaro as president. He'll be sworn in on Thursday. The newest government faces severe economic problems. Italy, in fact, risked being thrown out of the European community if it doesn't cut its $130 billion deficit. It also must deal with the political turmoil following the assassination of a leading anti-mafia crusade. Chicago police say 3 men are being sought tonight following early morning gunfire in a high-rise hotel. A security guard with the rap group Boys to Men was killed, another man wounded. Authorities say the scuffle broke out on the 26th floor of the guest quarters suite hotel. Roderick Roundtree was escorting the 3 men from the area where the fight broke out when he was fatally shot in the elevator. Boys to Men had performed in Chicago last night with MC Hammer. Hammer was in the hotel at the time of the shooting. People vacationing in eastern Cuba will certainly remember this Memorial Day. A strong earthquake shook that area today, just slightly damaging buildings in 2 cities. No reports of any injuries. A Mexican news agency said the quake hit about noon and that it was felt in 5 provinces. That quake measured 5.2 on the Richter scale. Meteorologist Bob Kovachick up next says this week will remain chilly. Details coming up next. To the weather, where Bob says he hopes you enjoyed summer and that you have success with your storm windows.
don't.
I sort of brought that up.
Don't mention anything about windows, screens, storms, climbing ladders. I tell you, no more. Ever again.
That was a year ago, late summer, right?
October. I was putting my storms up and I came
storming down. Did you get the screens back in?
Screens, I put them up from the inside this year. Reached out, up, and those old-fashioned.
Good.
All right, let's talk about this weather, Ed. And taking any chance of frost out of the forecast, a cloud cover tonight, a light south wind will keep us away from frost levels. Good news, 52 degrees right now, a cloud cover with a few stars showing through here and there. 63 our day's high, 34 this morning, normal where we should be. 72-48. I don't think we'll see that again until Friday or Saturday. Winds currently blowing from the southeast at 6, humidity 59%, the dew point at 40. Skies generally cloudy now in much of central and eastern New York to the New England coast across Pennsylvania. Some moon shine breaking through on the North Country. Slight chance of frost here in the Adirondacks and northern Green Mountains, where skies may stay mostly clear much of the night. Plus, for the vast majority of our viewing area, there will be no frost to worry about tonight. National weather scene, a major flip-flop again in the weather pattern. The heat has shifted to the west. In fact, the Pacific Northwest now hot. Cool air in the east, record lows this morning, Syracuse all the way to Marquette, down to Mansfield, Ohio, temperatures in the 20s and 30s. Even Melbourne, Florida had a record low early this morning of 58 degrees. Developing low in the Midwest, heading east. Watch when I superimpose the radar here, the movement of precipitation, rain, and thunder over the past few hours. Some big storms crossing Texas, more heavy flooding rains there. You can see a slowly expanding area of rain heading through the Midwest, even some spots of rain now pushing into parts of Ohio. This area will become filled with rain tomorrow and head in our direction. Not going to be a major soaking rain for us, but I think off and on rain late tomorrow night, probably into a Wednesday as well. So tomorrow, cloudy, cool, rain reaching central New York in the morning, central Pennsylvania. Rain could begin here as early as late afternoon or more likely during tomorrow night. Wednesday, that low weakens over the Great Lakes and new low forms on the coast. It all adds up to a southeast wind, cool, gray, occasionally rainy on Wednesday. Perhaps things will get better later on in the week. Probably not before Friday the way it looks right now. Forecast coming at you in a moment. Okay, here's my forecast. Increasing clouds tonight, cool but no frost. Average low is 42, but even Glens Falls, North Creek, Cambridge, Bennington, I don't think you'll get frost because of the clouds moving in as the night goes on. Tomorrow during the day, mostly cloudy. Could sprinkle a bit in the afternoon, but generally a cloudy day, high 57 with a light east to southeast wind. For tomorrow night, rain is a pretty good bet, off and on rain and drizzle. Temperatures averaging right around the mid-40s. And as we move on for the next 4 days beyond that, the weather picture not very good. Wednesday and Thursday, still a chance of rain, 50s. Friday, perhaps some sun, 62. It'll take till Saturday, I think, before temperatures get back to normal levels. It is amazing what flip-flop in the weather pattern from a great week last week to this week. Did you cover your
They're all covered. My wife covered them.
Just to be safe.
But
I
this
think
is the last night I'll have to worry about it,
I
think?
certainly hope so.
So do I. Thanks, Bob. Up next in sports, the Red Wings try to bounce back, get back on track on the road. Rodger Wyland with Calder Cup championship results. Then later on, Jay Leno gets ready to take over for a television legend. Hockey is a rare game where home ice has an advantage built in. Last line change means nothing.
In this series, home ice has meant nothing at all. And having said that, Game 5 of the Adirondack St. John's Calder Cup Finals shifted back to Newfoundland, where the Wings promptly fell behind 1-0 in the second period here when Mike Eastwood beat Alan Bester. But in all 5 games, the team that has scored first has lost every time. Such was the case tonight because the next 3 goals belong to the Wings. Martin Lapointe shoving the Wings in front here 2-1 at 10:44 the second, beating Damian Rhodes. And then Ken Queenie with a little insurance goal here in the third period. And the Wings win 3-1.
We came in here, won 2 games, and went back and lost 2. But it was fortunate that we knew we could come in here and win the game, and because we'd done it earlier, and we were capable of doing that. And I think this time it's a little different because we're not as confident as we were last time. We know they're capable of winning in our game, in our rink, and we got to battle just as hard as we did tonight when we go home.
All right, 3-1 final. Red Wings lead the series 3-2. They can put the wrap on it Wednesday night in Glens Falls. Hey, the last thing the Cleveland Cavaliers wanted to do was head back to Chicago, down 3-1. Don't worry, not when Danny Ferry is swinging at Michael Jordan. How bizarre is that? Nice move by the Cavs. Get everybody fired up. Ferry gets tossed, and who cares? Thanks, Danny, and hey, get lost. Michael Jordan still got his 35 points today, but Cleveland led by as many as 16. Mark Price hospitalized last night with the flu, a gutsy 13. Series is all even now at 2 apiece. Game 5 is Wednesday back in Chicago. In baseball, this Yankee team is a lot of fun to watch this year. Another example of that today, the Yanks cranked out 9 runs in the 8th inning to beat Milwaukee. Pat Kelly's blooper scored 2. Mike Gallego doubled home another run. Roberto Kelly drove home 2 more. And suddenly that Yankee lead was 9-7. And then with the bases juiced, Danny Tadamo launches the grand slam high and deep to left. Ball game. Yankees win 13-10. Elsewhere now in the 7th, Seattle leads Baltimore. Cleveland ahead of Oakland 8-1 in the 4th. National League, Louis Padel and the Reds paying a visit to Shea Stadium, 7th inning. And the left-hander, Paul O'Neill, against the left-hander, Paul Gibson. O'Neill wins. Solo shot to make it 2-0 Cincinnati. Middle inning relief for the Mets. Not very strong. 3-0.